Breaking. Omid Scobie finally admitted his lies in his book. Dutch translators and publishers sue him. Omid Scobie finally admits that he did name royal discriminators in Endgame, despite early denials when he said the Dutch translators were sent an early draft of Endgame that hadn't been cleared by his legal team. Earlier, he claimed Endgame's Dutch version was a translation mistake, throwing innocent professionals under the bus. Now he admits that early and uncleared text was sent to the Dutch publisher. It's fun to see Omid's career dying in real time. Author Omid Scobie has made a dramatic U-turn after admitting that he did name the royal discriminators in a version of his bombshell book Endgame, despite having denied it on multiple occasions. His book dominated headlines last week after a version of his book published in the Netherlands named two senior royals who'd held discussions about the colour of Prince Harry and Meghan Markle's first child. Confronted with claims that he'd put the names into an earlier manuscript of the book, Mr. Scobie initially said that he'd never named them. He said this repeatedly in interviews and has refused to apologise. Confronted with claims that he'd put the names into an earlier manuscript of the book, Mr. Scobie initially said that he'd never named them. He said this repeatedly in interviews and has refused to apologise. However, the author has now admitted to doing so. Today, he said an early and uncleared text was given to the publisher in the Netherlands that was never updated, with the final version pored over by lawyers. Scobie said, "Unbeknownst to me at the time, earlier and uncleared text was provided to the Dutch publisher in order for them to start work on the translation, with the understanding that the translation would be updated to reflect the final version of the book I officially submitted." He added, "To be clear, the only publisher I worked directly with was the one covering the US and UK. I spent almost 2 months with independent British barristers and in-house legal counsel to ensure that every detail in the finished book was legally watertight." He isn't calling it a draft or an early version, he's calling it uncleared text. Seems like playing with words after the fact to make the argument that what he said earlier was technically not a lie, though obviously it was incredibly misleading. Well, when his lies have been exposed, he can't hide anymore, but he still insists blamed the Dutch publisher for the scandal that's led to Buckingham Palace considering legal action. Surely this is a tacit acceptance that he lied when he said there was never a version with the names in it. Also, if this was an early draft, he's confirmed implicitly that those names are correct. The Dutch publishers of Omid Scobie's book Endgame have hit back at his claims that they were to blame for the name's two royals being named as discriminators. A spokesman for the publisher, Zander Uitgivers, said Omid Scobie's explanation in his column in iNews about the Dutch editorial process of the Dutch edition of Endgame is factually incorrect, and we don't recognise ourselves in his representation of the events. Zander Uitgivers is not allowed to say anything about the content, we therefore refer to the agent UTA. Dutch translators who were dragged through the mud due to Omid's lies may sue him into bankruptcy for dragging their good name through the mud. Hope that puts any publisher on alert that they'd be doing business with someone totally untrustworthy. Scobie thinks people are so stupid that he can distract them from his lies by accusing them of something heinous. It's a poor attempt to put people on defence instead of offence. That tactic rarely works and just creates more enemies. Scobie just wants a one-way monologue. It's not a conversation. Oh, and he lied again. It was in his book and he put it there. I think he's done as an author.